Many years ago, when I was first starting out as a minister, I decided it would be a great idea at the church I was serving to introduce the practice of passing the peace during worship. As far as I knew, passing the peace would be a brand new concept at that church, so I needed to demonstrate exactly how it was done. So I walked down into the congregation and I found a 6-year-old boy named Jason who was sitting near the aisle, and I said, Jason, we're going to show everyone something really special, so you just repeat after me what I tell you, and we will teach everyone how to do this thing right, okay? He nodded, and I took his hand, and I looked him in the eye, and I said, Jason, may the peace of Christ be with you. But before I could tell him what to repeat back to me, he said, what kind of pizza? After we cleared up that misunderstanding, everyone in the church gave it a shot, saying to each other, may the peace of Christ be with you. And people responded by saying, and also with you, just like it's done in most churches every Sunday. After that service, I was standing at the back of the sanctuary, and several smart alecks wanted me to pass them some pizza. I was not surprised by that. But what did surprise me was that one gentleman came up to me to let me know just how uncomfortable it made him feel to pass the peace. He said that reaching out and touching someone and speaking and receiving those words was just, well, it was just more than what he could manage at church on a Sunday morning. He summed it up by saying, I don't need to receive peace from anybody else. That's either something I have inside of me already or I don't. So I said, well, it's meant to be a way of saying that you hope someone experiences the peace of Christ in their lives. It's a wish for them, an invitation to accept peace, to cross over into a place of peace that's waiting for you. That's all it is. And he said, I can't do that. And he walked off. And as he did, I thought that, wow, if anyone apparently needed to find some peace in his life, it was that guy, because who wouldn't turn down an offering of peace to go to a place of peace unless it was someone who did not believe peace is possible, that a place of peace doesn't exist? So I wondered and did my best to learn more about him. Maybe he'd been wounded by life too harshly to put much stock in peace. And I learned that he had some unfortunate things happen in his life, as we all do, and they had really left a mark on him, a barrier to accepting the peace that was waiting for him, that was available to him. One of the aspects of this season of Advent, getting ready for Christmas, is a great sense of nostalgia. We love traditions this time of year because they can carry us back to those moments in our lives when we experience joy and contentment and anticipation. And I'm one of those very lucky people to have been born into a family that was emotionally stable and healthy. So my memories of childhood, especially around Christmas time, feel like I'm being tucked into bed at night by a loving parent. It's a place of security and belonging. So when we decorate the church and sing Christmas carols and we hear familiar stories from the Bible about the birth of Christ, it's a pretty fantastic feeling for me. It's like setting the needle down on an old-fashioned record to listen to a favorite song. It's peaceful, like knowing that whatever's going on in the world that may be troubling, I still know something more significant than any trouble, that I am loved, and that this season is an opportunity to be acutely aware of that and give thanks for that and to share that love. I hope and pray the same is true for you in this season. At the same time, it's important to be aware that for many among us, many of our friends, family members, neighbors, people right here, that all the sights and sounds of Christmas might not be peaceful at all, that there are barriers or deep valleys of sorrow and pain and weariness that just seem too large to cross. There are people who are spending their first Christmas without a loved one, or it's yet another Christmas where there's an empty chair at the table, or maybe like that gentleman who did not like the practice of passing the peace at church. Maybe this season does not bring back happy memories. Maybe they cannot find a way of sharing and receiving peace. Maybe the lights and the music and the stories bring to life again their personal pain. It could also be that peace these days can feel elusive for any of us. We just went through another week in our country with 3 different mass shootings. One, apparently, was a hate crime directed against LGBTQ people. So we're frustrated, fatigued, and beyond grieving. No one seems to have any solid solutions to that epidemic. Is peace a naive thing to hope for? And we continue to be subjected to the politics of grievance and fear and outrage that inspires and sparks real violence. In an atmosphere of such divisiveness, can we honestly envision peaceful and productive dialogue and change? One of the common Old Testament voices we hear in this season is the prophet Isaiah. Isaiah became a favorite of the early Christians because of his poetic language about the coming of a hope-filled, peaceful kingdom and one who would rule that kingdom. That sounded to those early Christians as if Isaiah could have been talking about Jesus Christ. And so they were quick to adapt Isaiah's words as a way of expressing their own understanding of the meaning of Jesus' life and how he embodied God's loving intention for humankind. Isaiah was like a lot of the Jews of his day and age, centuries before the time of Jesus. They yearned for a restoration of the way things used to be, a better, simpler time when the people had a king who was filled with God's spirit of wisdom and grace and whose kingdom promised healthy, peace-filled relationships among people, a place of peace led by the Prince of Peace. It was a lot like the memories that you might have of childhood if your growing up felt safe and secure. But when Isaiah wrote those words, that was not their present way of being in the world. If they had once felt secure and peaceful, life had been unkind to them. They were lost, confused, weary, and frightened. They were burdened by injustice. They wore scars of the wounds they had suffered. And those folks were just not capable of bridging the distance from where they were to any place of peace. So Isaiah weaves a compelling image for them and for us. A tree, their beautiful tree, their cherished way of life had been cut down with only a stump remaining, presumed dead. They could all agree on that image. Peace, true peace, felt like a distant dream with no hope of ever seeing it thrive again. But then Isaiah says a shoot, a small branch of new life was coming forth out of that stump, like a hand extended in friendship and support and belonging, just waiting for them to grasp it. And a shoot doesn't remain a shoot for long. It grows into a branch. And this branch becomes strong and sturdy enough not only to grasp, but to walk across a bridge. It was a poetic invitation and a wish to cross over the dark valley and the troubled water, to believe in and to live in again a place of peace, in spite of life's challenges and disappointments, in the midst of fatigue and grief, to cross over into a way of being, to celebrate goodness, security, and belonging, to live there again or to discover it for the very first time, to lay down the barriers of your wounds and your disappointments and your anxieties and accept the gift of peace that awaits. That's why every year in this season we listen to the words of Isaiah, an Old Testament preacher whose message goes hand in glove with the New Testament story of a baby born in Bethlehem. Because the invitation Isaiah was offering his people so very long ago is what we're doing today when we put up wreaths and sing carols and light candles and tell that Christmas story again. It's what we do today when we remember Christmases of the past and feel that warm and familiar connection. It's a bridge. It's the invitation we offer to those who may believe that the wounds they've suffered, the injustices they've endured, and the pain they navigate is just too much for them to ever reach the place of peace. It's what we do today when our world so often feels devoid of peace that we may have given up on the idea that peace is even possible. In this and any congregation, it's how any challenge can be reframed as an opportunity, so that any healing that needs to happen and any obstacle that must be overcome is done in the confident faith that with God all things are possible. It's our task to reach out our hands and offer that wish, that invitation, that conviction to accept the peace of Christ. Because in this season and in every season, our extended arms are strong branches of hope. You and I are a bridge. We've all been wounded and disappointed. None of us are immune, and that's why this season matters so much to us. It allows us to remember and to glimpse the other side, where the peace of Christ exists. The thing we must remember and demonstrate is that peace lives, not in some abstract place, but right here in you and me. The peace of Christ is in us. It's in one another. So it's up to us to be that bridge, And we can because of our courage and persistence and insistence and faith that hope never dies because the love of God never dies. And wherever there is love and hope, that is where peace lives. We're all on a path to reach the place of peace, and we need each other, every last one of us, to link our hands and hearts and voices, to be a bridge, to see us all safely across.